Welcome back for EU Relegations once more. We've seen two games so far, all four teams involved in the relegation, Sacco. But this time, it's the battle of the two SPL teams that are involved in this, Burrito and Papis. How are you feeling?
This is an excellent time for both of these teams to really debut what they learned over their past split in the SPL. And overall, we've already seen a little bit of improvement, I would say, from Burrito as far as last time relegations went around. And it's just great seeing that improvement overall.
Well, let's just have a quick look at the schedule for you guys at home if you don't know what's going on today. Two games down so far. Papis versus Secret Vicious. Victoria's Secret. I couldn't get the words. I was like, wait, Vicious? No, Victoria's Secret. And Papis versus Burrito is the match we're going to be going on to next. The first game of the day, obviously, we saw a little bit earlier on, which went in Burrito's favor up against New Game Plus. So coming into this, we've seen two games so far that went quite late. We're expecting pretty much the same. What do Papis need to correct after that game they just played?
A lot of it just fell onto late game positioning, seeming a little bit awkward for them. There was quite a few times where Warchi was just picked off before he was really able to participate in the fight. And when you're starting out a fight 4v5, it just becomes so difficult to try and make your composition work.
Especially when your late game carry is taken off the table straight away. So we'll see what happens in this game for the Papis here, because it's very tricky to kind of practice late game too, isn't it? Because, you know, you fight so much in the early and mid game, 30-minute games are so regular. 40, 50-minute games, not the same story.
It can be really difficult just because you have that all-in or bust factor. When these late-game timers start to happen, your death timers become so incredibly high. One simple mistake can really just cause everything to fall apart. I think that was really the case for the Papis. Just numerous team fights didn't go their way. If they clean it up a little bit in the earlier stages and are able to snowball a little bit more off of their lead, or just emphasize and put more pressure off of it, I think they'll fare better in the mid to late.
Well, let's get into picks and bans and see how these two get on today. Burrito versus Papis, and last time we saw this was in the summer split. They split 1-1. So there's still no telling who is the favored team coming into this one. Obviously, the Spanish fans will be backing, I should say, the Papis, and everybody who likes Mexican food will probably be backing Burrito.
I think there's a lot of hype surrounding both of these teams just because you've got Papis who are debuting their new mid laner, MrNazer. Overall, his gameplay was pretty solid on Janus, not necessarily the most favored pick right now because he can suffer a little bit early on. I think that he still had a very strong showing, although there was a couple of questionable plays. It's bound to happen, and his synergy seemed pretty intact to the rest of his team. Loving the Wukong pick, though, out of Burrito.
Just because it's very flexible to an extent. I mean, he's a safe solo laner if need be, and he doesn't give too much away about what you're going to do. Papis going to take the Ravana again, more than likely for Dheylo, and Skadi this time. So Warchi's like, you know what? That Skadi looked kind of good. Let me take that for myself here.
It's just such a strong pick, and plus you're taking it away from Burrito, so you're not going to have to worry about that permafrost messing up your team fights. But this is a matchup we've already seen once today, just with two different hunters. Chronos versus Skadi is just so 50-50 depending on how you use your kit.
And the dual lane for Burrito now locked in with Chronos and Ganesha. It's more than likely going to be seeing Fusify on that Chronos. It's not a real surprise to see him change that up. He likes the magical damage dealers for the most part. Papis going to respond with Sobek for Dracomarino here.
Important Sobek pickup, although it can be a little bit difficult to pull off against a Ganesh who has that silence available. It's going to be really crucial for Draco to time everything perfectly because you can punish a Chronos pretty heavily early on, especially with a Skadi who has so much dual lane pressure.
Sure.
If you mess up, though, on that pluck, you're probably toast.
Well, Papis ban away Hoyi here. They saw Burrito did run that Hoyi in the mid lane, potentially, with DeathPanter earlier on, who had a pretty good game on it, too. Tough banned out from Burrito says they don't want to see MrNazer on that, so we could end up potentially seeing MrNazer play a different god, unless Janus is, you know, somebody wants to go to again.
I think that's his default right now. It seems as though he feels pretty comfortable picking this, and mentality behind the Papis draft so far is a little bit of mobility. I mean, you have Skadi and Sobek who can get locked down if they're not careful with their escapes. So having that Janus for that potential disengage could be pretty clutch overall.
Well, Anhur as well now locked in for Burrito. Generally, Anhur is seen in the dual lane. We've seen it flex to the mid lane and certain opportunities because those impels are pretty good with the small space in the mid lane with the walls being so close. It can be quite impactful. Will we see him go mid, though?
Potentially, Anhur has so much pressure early on, plus with his ultimate receiving a buff recently and going to the 75-second cooldown, he could have a lot of jungle buff fighting potential at level 5.
It's Warriors versus Warriors in the jungle on solo, quite clearly. Some Wukong, Ravana, Bellona, and Osiris means Osiris, also Wukong in the jungle. I'm guessing it's Osiris. We've seen more than that than we've seen some Wukong.
Osiris has kind of fallen out of favor a little bit between the slight nerf to Death's Toll and just the fact that I think more players have figured out how to play against him. You know he's going to try and look for that lane bullying position at the start. So if you just watch where you're pushed up to in the lane and avoid early ganks from the enemy jungler, you're typically good to go.
It's also the rise of Sprint as well. I'm talking about Sprint. You can see the Papis well aware of that being available to them. Once again, Dracomarino and Creed will start with that. One difference in the solo lane is last game when we saw the two take on each other in the solo lane, it was both sprints. This time Shell, I should say, for Sibi this time round instead. And for Dzoni in the jungle, so it's going to be some Wukong jungle here.
So Wukong jungle doesn't surprise me in the slightest, just because Dzoni wants to have that frontline possibility, and having so much engage and peel for Burrito is just going to be pretty intense for Papis to try and counteract. But I am happy to see the Anhur in that mid lane.
Yeah, and we'll see what DeathPanter can do with his Anhur up against the Janus. Going to be an interesting one there. What I'm more interested in is what Papis do at the start, because last game we saw them up against Victoria's Secret. Warchi was left alone at his red buff, soloed that on his own and went to lane. Meanwhile, Dracomarino started mid with MrNazer. This time round, seems to be a bit of a different story. Looks like a late invade potentially coming out from the Papis on the left-hand side here. Sobek already making his way down. His duo, his solo lane we're looking at right now with two members here. They're actually going to force Kespainify back, as it appeared Fusify showed himself in the mid lane doing what Warchi did last game. And so this is how you can get punished, by starting with only one.
Trying to watch the zoning, and it is going to go the way for Warchi. That was an incredibly strong attempt from Kespainify. Bit unfortunate that he's unable to secure his red buff, especially considering that now he's going to be lacking that XP on top of missing that wave. So just really needs to be careful pushing back into that dual lane.
So Burrito right now, they lose their red buff. The left-hand purple buff going to go to Kespainify here if he can clear it before we see Dracomarino come in and clear it. Will be just in time. And Burrito's right-hand side jungle is still available to be taken. So now we'll see DeathPanter, Dzoni, and Sibi all group up to share that experience.
Pretty fortunate Kespainify wasn't actually caught by that Sobek pluck, because it might have spelled disaster for him had that actually connected.
Well, left-hand side, you can see the Oracle's being contested. Will go the way of Papis as well here. So the start of this game, the experience per minute, because he MrNazer started in his own in mid lane, so he's going to be top of the shop as it stands. Obviously, the duo laners and the junglers all started in the solo area, at least in the solo jungle too.
I'm glad that Fusify rotated back over to the dual lane side. It was clear that Kespainify was getting pressured out pretty heavily. It's hard to go one-on-one with a Skadi, much less a Skadi Sobek lane, so having the Ganesha available to help him clear out the waves should deter some of that pressure.
Very interesting to see these two differences in where the positions of their early game carries are. Sibi's in trouble here. Only level 3, going to stun Creed in place, but with Dheylo here, this should be death. Obviously, the body blocks come into play, and a nice, easy pickup for Papis. Sibi's dead already. 1-0. Papis on the board.
Sprint versus Shell, and he was fighting into the wave there. That's kind of the curious part. Taking that boxing match when you still have to worry about the wave to clear can not necessarily be the best look for you.
So, straight back to base he has to go. He's not going to lose too much farm to the tower, at least, because most of the wave was already dead, but he's still going to get back a little bit late without having the teleports anymore. This is why potentially camping solo lane could come into play a little bit more often now, Taco.
Especially for a Raven, you know that he only has the shell available for himself. You can easily burn that out between a Bellona and the Raven just because their abilities deal so much damage early on. Sprint's the perfect chase down potential as well.
So we see Kespainify on the left-hand side and Anhur in the mid lane, Chronos and Anhur. The funny thing is I'm pretty sure Anhur's going to be online a little bit earlier than a Chronos, so it's good to fight MrNazer in mid, who eats a whole Desert Fury, but will escape to live to fight another day. Dheylo with a nice bit of peel onto Dzoni to make sure that happens. But then again, Janus and Chronos, very similar in a lot of ways in terms of you want to get to late game with them, whereas Skadi and her a little bit more early to mid game focused, and then Skadi goes crazy late too.
Anhur against Janus especially is going to just be chunking him with his auto attacks. I mean, MrNazer was forced to use his beads on top of his ultimate, and even then had to back immediately because he knew Dzoni was going to be looking for him.
Well, Johnny's in a bit of trouble on that right-hand side there by the looks of it. Surrounded in the jungle at the speed buff as it stands, has to use his ultimate to get away. Still being focused by MrNazer. The portal going to keep him pinned to allow Dracomarino to swing round, but nice pillar, and Draco clearly didn't have that charge available. Otherwise, he would have looked for the steal. Burrito instead have to fall back and can't look to steal away the speed buff from the Papis.
Johnny's definitely flirting with the idea of buff invades. This is the most ideal period for Burrito to really engage in that jungle side, but it can be difficult trying to push into that Robin.
Yeah, now Ravana on the right-hand side, looking potentially to gank Sibi one more time here. But Sibi, a little bit safer this time around, realizing he's lost a lot of lane pressure up against this Bellona, and so the Papis starting to control the right-hand side of the map, slowly but surely.
Burrito need to be careful, though, because Papis are already making their way towards the speed buff of some Wukong. Just, you know that his ultimate isn't available. He does have the rest of his team, but with Sibi being forced out of the lane, this is a very strong play from Papis.
Yeah, those late backs from Burrito, realistically, everybody chose to back. 4 members, in fact, of Burrito chose to back around the same time. When you do that, you're going to lose a lot of map pressure and potential jungle. You can see even Papis didn't want to risk the blue there. They just bid off the speed and walked away. They didn't want to continue the investment and potentially get caught themselves.
Might have to retract that statement, though, because they're looking to invade it now after pushing the wave into the tower, so that they know that Sibi is going to have to look for that clear. He knows that his team is in mid lane and they won't be able to make that rotation in time. So pretty strong counter engage by Papis.
3 members of Burrito wrapping around from the mid lane here. Going to catch MrNazer, who just uses portal over the wall. MrNazer has his ultimate back up. Space and time fired, looking to get back towards mid lane for the farm, really, more than anything else. And we'll do just that.
Janus' ultimate early on is more so just for rotating your team around as opposed to fighting. He doesn't have the greatest damage early on, even if you connect that unstable vortex. Sure, he's going to have a little bit more now that he's hit level 7 and starts to move upwards, but I can't really see a whole lot of engage really being the main focus here. Papis just want to look to keep securing those buffs where they can.
Now, Anhur, the king of the jungle, we've not seen him for a little while, but with the recent buffs in the mid-season patches, they get a bit of love to that Desert Fury, which means it's available a little bit more often, not just for damage, but technically it's, you know, CC immunity that comes into play quite often.
CC immunity is very strong, especially against the Sobek. Plus, you have the pillar, if you're fast enough, to block that pluck. So just a couple of different ways that DeathPanter can really deter solid engagement from the Papis.
I'll just keep an eye on the 2 supports there, because you heard that little ching in the mid lane, and that was Fusify. Managed to finish off his Lono's mask and get the extra bonus gold from that. So you can see the experience per minute at the moment. The gold per minute will be interesting to see how far ahead he is of his enemy support in Dracomarino, who just went for Travelers instead of the Lono's mask.
I think he's prioritizing his gold. He might be looking to build into a Hide of the Urchin that's fairly popular, or even the Jade Emperor's Crown is also pretty prevalent among supports right now.
I think a lot of the supports have been talking about Hide, and they're like, you know what, it's great, but it's just too expensive to really invest that much in the early game. And then sometimes you don't even get the result because you've been bursted down so much. That's why we see a little bit more of the Jade Emperor's Crown, because 30 power reduction, I should say, on every, you know, physical god you come across isn't doom and gloom.
Especially when you're facing off against physical mids at that.
Yeah, very, very true indeed. So MrNazer in the mid on this Janus yet again. He's not scared to use these portals for mobility and use them to just cut away angles and leave it on cooldown potentially and put himself in an awkward spot. But it's working out okay. You see it, once again, just continually reposition himself with it. It's not something we see too many Januses do, because they like to hold it for escapes or escapes for their teammates.
Well, MrNazer does have his ultimate back up and available for him. Fusify, again, kind of just thinking about hovering around the Papis jungle. This might have been the wrong place to look, though. He's already popped the sprint, and the Sobek pluck is good.
Unstable Vortex down 2, but the ultimate coming out from Fusify will keep him standing tall for now. Silence going to slow them down, and now Sibi and Dzoni and DeathPanter here. DeathPanter out of mana in the backside, double got a lot of damage off to get Sibi to get the kill on Dracomarino. Support for support, 1 for 1, and everybody limps away for the time being. Creed is slowed. Dzoni may be thinking about it, but with Dheylo showing up and the minions still there, they change their mind.
Kind of an unnecessary death, though, from Fusify, just looking to go a little bit too aggressive. He knew that the Papis had 3 members hovering around that speed buff area. He was just in the mid lane, so that slight bit of overcommit when his team wasn't close enough kind of just cost him.
Well, he won't make it again, will he? Let's be honest. The reason being he's an elephant. You never forget, so he should be able to work that out for
That's
next
a pretty
time
good one.
You like it?
That one was, I gotta hand you that one. That was a good one.
It's not rocket science, it's an elephant. But I did get the names wrong earlier on. I apologize to Fusify and Kespainify. I was talking about Kespainify playing so much of the Mage Hunters, and I said Fusify, but I just realized that now in game. I'm like, I'm an idiot. But hey, that's what casters are.
It's always fun with the names hanging around, especially when they share so many similarities.
Yeah, that's true indeed. And sometimes they've got very weird names that always cause you problems. Sibi, not a tricky one to deal with there, as Dracomarino will get the Elementals alongside Warchi, who's level 10, a level behind Kespainify and the Chronos as it stands now, as Fusify charges into MrNazer and will help to steal them the way with the help of DeathPanter in tow.
Also doesn't have to worry about the Papis collapsing on him again, considering that it was only MrNazer available in that mid lane trying to secure those.
So a bit of patience once again. 9 minutes in, gold advantage isn't too much, about 400-500 gold in favor of the Papis as it stands right now. Experience relatively even too. Does this favor either team realistically when you look at how the squads line up towards mid and late?
Both of these teams have fairly strong mid games. As far as the late game is concerned, though, it's probably slightly more in favor of Burrito Esports simply because of the Sun Wukong and the Chronos. Sun Wukong just becomes such a heavy peel factor and nuisance in the late game. I mean, he basically has 2 lives, and it's the same story for Chronos.
And DeathPanter at the moment for Burrito, going for the Transcendence build on the Anhur in the mid lane. How do we like this build, Taco? How's it looking?
A Transcendence in mid lane makes sense because you're going to need mana. You don't want to have to be backing super often, and plus, Anhur has so much power in his kit already, especially with his shifting sands. Nothing wrong with adding a little bit more oomph to your auto attacks.
Makes a lot of sense. MrNazer this time around may mix up his build once again. We saw a couple of variations of it last game, but it looks like he's going for the Book of Thoth a little bit earlier on this time around.
It's all fair play for Janus, kind of just focusing on that mana for the power spike. Sibi, though, in a lot of trouble. Although it doesn't look like Papis really want to engage all the way here.
Just chip down for the time being. He has Swift Wing too, so a quick trip back to base for Sibi. Won't be doom and gloom because he'll be able to run back relatively quickly. Johnny in mid lane, though, looking at MrNazer and gets a nice little cat form off onto him. MrNazer, though, returns the damage as best he can with the Unstable Vortex before dipping through the portal. Pressure for Burrito in mid for the time being.
Fun with Janus. It's going to be really hard for Burrito to really decide to commit to MrNazer. They have to burn out the ultimate most importantly before really trying to fully engage on him.
I actually think Creed's going to get a huge lead in the solo lane right now. Look at the difference in itemization. Obviously, we mentioned Sibi going for that Swift Wing to get it back to lane earlier, but now Creed has got a full Mystical Mail finished, and that's going to be a lot more damage and pressure onto Sibi to keep forcing him out of lane. I wouldn't be surprised to see Dheylo sticking to camp in the solo lane for the time being, using that to its advantage.
It's the smart option when you know that your solo laner is going to get free damage anyway because of the Mystical Mail. He's already having solid bully potential over Sibi. And I think on the opposite side of the map, Dheylo doesn't have to worry as much because it's the same story for Warchi. Warchi has a lot of pressure right now on Kespainify.
And Warchi, yeah, he caught up in levels. He was a level down a little bit earlier on to Kespainify, but now he's evened up the levels for the time being and working on that Transcendence, which is stacking away. So both hunters going for Transcendence as it stands. Power is still important.
It's always important, and I think for the 2 hunters that have Transcendence, I mean, you already have Warchi with the Transcendence online, obviously, because he's able to get a little bit more farm in that dual lane, not necessarily having to split non-stop. But whenever, it's online now, actually, so DeathPanter's autos are actually just going to be destroying.
And at this point, with that power spike of that Transcendence coming in line, would it be a good idea to maybe look around this Gold Fury area for a cheeky steal? Because, well, at least a cheeky attempt, because Anhur's great at the jungle control in the early game.
They have a ton of burst if Papis aren't careful with their positioning, but the Papis have been excellent about keeping ward vision on that Gold Fury area. I think they're kind of anticipating some sort of cheeky or sneaky strat from Burrito.
We'll talk about sneaky. DeathPanter rotating around to the right-hand side, looking to pressure the Papis here in their own half of the map. Bad news is the blue buff was already taken by Creed and Dheylo. And on the left, the Papis just took their own purple and will head back to lane once more.
No harm, no foul, though, for the DeathPanter. Kind of just poking his head around to see if there's anything he can get away with or force out. And speaking of forcing out, Warchi kind of just, again, pushing Kespainify back underneath the tower line.
Now Johnny going to rotate into the jungle here, potentially look for a wraparound gank, but ward coverage from Papis is good enough to spot this before it arrives. And it could be Johnny the one in trouble, because around the corner comes Draco over the pool of ice. That is, and the ultimate was actually used by Warchi there, but the ultimate was not good from Naze. It was so close, I should say, but not close enough, because Kespainify is the focus.
It's going to be Dheylo, though, looking to try and lock down this Chronos pick. Ultimate has been expended. Aegis is out, but the slow from Ganesha is strong. Dheylo still going in, though, and Warchi finally able to secure it.
Got him, and Fusify, the doggy's on the hunt right now. MrNazer will clean it up, and there's not much Johnny can do, but Warchi does manage to pick up Creed, meanwhile, in the jungle, as him combines with DeathPanter. Sibi trading against 4 here. The Unstable Vortex going to slow him down, but Papis have got what they wanted. They're considering falling back here. Sibi rotates in a little bit early. Warchi wants the kill, and he'll get it. So 4 members in the end, sorry, 3 members, I should say, fall down for Burrito.
That's just fun with Skadi all the way. That Janus ultimate as well, just absolutely beautiful. The way that it undercut the lane. So Burrito, even when they were trying to disengage, were just running straight into the Papis.
The only bad news I see for Burrito there, don't understand why Panther and Dzoni didn't end up coming up to this left-hand side or doing something else on the map. Look at where the map looks now, as it stands. Look where DeathPanter is, look where Dzoni is. Dzoni ends up falling back to tier 2, recalling and trying to defend the tier 2. DeathPanter, meanwhile, took right harpies. He could have taken the speed, which was available. He could have taken the tier 1 tower in mid. You kind of want to make it, you know, worthwhile somewhere to even it out potentially.
Burrito seemed to have just fallen victim to hesitation in the shot call there. They probably were anticipating that that lane was going to die no matter what. Everybody over there was probably toast. So it was pretty much, it seemed like a split decision for DeathPanter. I can rotate late and potentially die myself, just like what happened to Sibi, or I can just kind of AFK farm.
And I'm not upset about him like not rotating. It was more like he could have got more from the farm. And
I think he just definitely hesitated on whether or not he should rotate, and because of that, it led to him not looking to secure a Portal Demon or the buffs or anything.
Well, fight around the Oracles now, 2 on 3 as it stands. Fusify dived in there looking for the charge onto Warchi, and instead he's in a lot of trouble. The elephant is in trouble. He's surrounded, and I tell you what, Peter's not going to be happy about that now as Dzoni now flipped in. A monkey's in trouble too. The zoo is going crazy. The crocodile hanging around waiting for Dzoni to come down. I just realized how many animals are on this game now.
There's a lot of animals. There's a
even
lion as well.
Yeah, I was like, hang on a second, I've got to stop this. It's getting too far. Gold Fury still leashed by Papis. Is on the back. Kespainify forced to rewind and will do so in time. Desert Fury from DeathPanter was good and he'll leap away from the damage coming in. Round the back comes Sibi and he'll claim the life of Dracomarino. Kespainify has to run to save the day as Dzoni took a lot more poke, but Sibi's starting to swing. He's chosen the warrior though to go on Creed, and that's left DeathPanter on his own against Dheylo and Warchi. And Warchi will end his life. Duking around in the ice field as best he can, and the Aegis is now down. Warchi looking to buy himself a window, but it's too little too late. Next on the list is Dheylo, as Burrito will take down some more members of the Papis, and that Gold Fury is looking very tasty.
Just absolute chaos all around. Papis just lost entire focus of who they should be targeting, and because of that, they tunnel vision a little bit too much onto DeathPanter, splitting up, not really paying much attention to Sibi on that backside, and just really heavily in favor of Burrito there.
Gold Fury still alive as it stands right now, still been juggled and now reset thanks to the reinforcements of the Papis. MrNazer did everything he could to stop it and did just enough. Did cost him his beads after all, but look at that damage in that team fight, Taco. Crazy.
It was so close, but the issue that Papis encountered as opposed to Burrito was they just focused a little bit more on the carry pickoffs. Warchi just couldn't escape from that slow from the Osiris. Even with his permafrost being dropped on top of him, he just didn't have enough health to really combat them anymore.
So now it's 5-7. Goal lead of about 1,700 gold for the Papis as it stands. Most of that will come down to the kills and the superior farming on the map, along with the tier 1 tower. That's all the real difference in this game is there's 2 kills in a tier 1 tower, because no one's got a Gold Fury yet.
And I don't think that a Gold Fury attempt will be made anytime soon, as much as it will be just looking to bait out the fights in that area.
So what's the biggest mistakes these teams are making so far? Because we said it's a lot of fighting, but not a lot of deaths really happen.
It's just super drawn out fights, and a lot of these members are just barely managing to escape on such low HP and then rotating back in that it just continues the fight for so long, but by the time the one person who did die spawns again, they're able to come back into the fight, no problem.
And credit to Sibi where it's due, because he was bullied by Creed early on in that laning phase. He was down in levels, he was down in itemization, but just look at Sibi's level right now, up against Creed. He's done a very good job of farming, and because he turned up to that fight at the right time too, it paid dividends.
Timing really is everything for a lot of these solo lane rotations, and so because of Sibi's impeccable timing, it just saves really the Gold Fury secure from the Papis.
Well, Oracle's going to go down very quickly to the Papis. They're doing a very good job of controlling those, and as you said earlier on, the wall coverage here, but it's still not giving them the advantage to go for that gold as it stands.
They just have to maintain that war coverage. DeathPanter, though, starting to take quite a little bit of that Janus damage.
Yep. And that's what happens when you don't have beads available and you get hit by the portal. MrNazer is showing that his Janus is pretty solid, in my opinion. He's not scared to use the portals on walls for escapes and even hang around before jumping through it, but also using the portal for aggressive terms, which is something that a lot of mid laners say, never do that, because if you do and you miss it, you could die. It puts out a lot of damage if you do it, but puts you in a tricky spot.
Speaking of dying, Kespainify forced to use his beats to escape another portal, But now the sprint is going to be coming through. Fusify trying to peel for his Hunter. Kespainify still trying to run away from Dheylo.
Dheylo doing work though, taking Kespainify all the way around the fight. Kespainify is going to return to base. Panther, different story. He's going to leap over the wall. There's a portal there, but no one's going to go through it as it stands. Sibi still running for his life from Creed as the Eagles rally didn't hit, but it will give protections to him to keep him standing. Instead, Papis look to fall back. Dheylo still too far forward on his own. Dzoni now wrapping around the back, and it could be trouble here for poor old Dheylo, who's surrounded by all the members of the team, and the Papis lose a member just going too deep. And now Burrito there on the offense, and Warchi could go down any second too.
And it's going to be Warchi falling shortly. No way to escape that Desert Fury from DeathPanter. Even with his Aegis being used, just not enough time bought, too little HP. And again, that was the overcommit that we were just talking about.
Creed going to try and take him on a merry goose chase here. And Sibi's quite low with the Mystical Mail ticking, but with 2 carries in tow and a fantastic impale from DeathPanter. That's going to make sure Creed goes down. MrNazer doing his juke boots, using the threshold to his advantage, slowing Dzoni down there. And now pressure for Burrito. Gold Fury available, and they're heading that direction.
4 members of the Papis were retreating, but Dheylo was still caught down underneath that T2 tower from Burrito's side, trying to secure the kill. And because of that, his team was unable to rotate to him to help save him, and they all fell victim to just the Chronos gas pedal.
Good work from Fusify there on the back line on that Ganesha, just silencing MrNazer. Not sure if the ultimate was up or not, but you don't want him to slip through your hands and get that one unstable vortex off. That'll cause you problems. At the time, though, it was on cooldown, so no harm, no foul. Burrito Esports, after that fight, it was Papis who were the aggressors there. They're the ones that dove into the back line, and in the end, it was just that one play, I think, from Dzoni where he was just a little bit too far forward. Sorry, not Dzoni, Dheylo ended up getting isolated from his team that cost him so much.
Once you aren't able to secure the kill and you realize that you're that deep in the enemy's jungle, you should just immediately reset and regroup. Papis could have probably pressured the Gold Fury there and then potentially looked for picks as a team that was fully composed, but letting one member die, I mean, every 4v5 scenario is typically going to go against you.
Support versus support, and one support's going for a wild ride, not one that he really wants to. Fusify is already dead. Desert Fury hits a lot onto Dracomarino, but it is a tank after all. The ultimate out from MrNazer creates portals for the Papis to go in deep, and they find Kespainify and rewind him back into dangerous territory. Good news, though, Burrito had members around to protect him, so he can just fall back, play safe, and it's so far a 1-0 in favor of Papis.
Dzoni probably just happy that he's able to defend his speed buff. That's every jungler's biggest nightmare. But Kespainify potentially looking to go in here and commit now onto Dheylo. He's got the Hasten Ring effect going active on him right now. But Dzoni hits the speed buff with the Tiger Stun.
And now Johnny's in a bit of trouble, though, because of the Eagles rally from Creed. Dzoni running for his life, and the Bloodchain will pick up the kill. The carries on the back line of DeathPanter and Kespainify were doing what they could, but it wasn't enough damage. Warchi, though, he wants a bit of action here. The problem is that the ice field just aggroed the portal demon as Sibi gets taken out on the backside. It is a fiesta of kills as it stands in the last few minutes. Plenty of fighting, and no one really with an advantage.
Loving the shift of focus there from Warchi. Instead of trying to commit onto Kespainify, who was running away from him, or DeathPanter, immediately just turns back around onto Sibi, who's caught in between 3 members of the Papis.
But what a good fight for Papis there. The team recap showing the gold and experience gain. Very important for them, especially after them losing the Gold Fury earlier on there. Good plays from the Papis to keep themselves in this one. Papis lose this taco. They're pretty much in the Challenger circuit. They have to win this.
Papis really need this win. I doubt that they want to go back into the life of the CC, so...
Oh, blink over the wall, but as Dheylo blinked, he blinked as the Anhur leap hit. Fusify with a good ultimate to slow them down. DeathPanter will live, all because Dheylo blinked half a second too early. I'm pretty sure Panther would have been dead if that wasn't the case, or at least in a worse position than that ended up in.
But now it's going to be Warchi trying to just toss out Kaldar, seeing what kind of damage he can deal. MrNazer looking to disengage. Beautiful silence from Fusify, though, to catch out Dracomarino. And now he's going to be caught trying to ult back into his tower from safety. But Sibi's in the same situation.
Kespainify forced to Aegis and bursted heavily, and the bludgeon will go through, but it's not enough. Rewind comes into play, but the unstable vortex from Nazer will remove him from the game. Warchi gets credit as DeathPanter picks up the Sobek. Dzoni in the sky with diamonds, not by choice, as DeathPanter can't do too much. Round the corner, you saw Nazer trying to get some poke round the back as Warchi will clean up the monkey.
All too easy for Dheylo to ult in and assist Warchi with that pickup, and same can be said for DeathPanter. Even with the Purification beads coming through,
Why is Sibi still
too
here?
much damage. Sibi, you're going to follow the same route as the rest of your team.
Well, Sibi was trying to help out his team, and in the end, he's just found another way back to the fountain, the same way his team's gone. One by one, eventually, he's going to fall. Cast a curse. Cast a curse. Cast a curse. Of course that happens. 13 to 9.
There's just so many things to be said about Shell sometimes. And the slow from Osiris, that was really well played by Sibi. Had he missed that, he's probably dead.
Funny enough, I do think Burrito are really missing a secondary sprint in this game. They've got one on Fusify. I think a second one would be so much more useful for them to stay alive in these engagements just a little bit longer, either for disengaging and aggressing once more and slowing down the Papis, who are dancing very well in the team fights, in my opinion, as it continues on.
It's the permafrost. It's not only breaking apart Burrito from staying grouped up all the time, but having that additional speed boost and CC from Warchi is just permitting him to deal out so much damage relatively safe.
And now it's just a waiting game for a moment as Burrito basically sit back and lick their wounds now after the last fight or two, not going in their favor after the Gold Fury. It's been all Papis, and now they've got a gold lead because of it. The second Gold Fury of the game is about to spawn soon, and obviously Pearl Demon went the way of Papis too after that last engagement, and that's where we stand right now.
MrNazer just split push a T2 tower from Burrito while that engagement was happening because Sibi was being chased slightly by Creed, and him not being able to back meant that he couldn't have any possibilities to defend.
I think MrNazer's showing his way into the SPL here as it stands, but he's still going to try and get there. This is Relegations, and every team needs to find the top 2 spot to get into it. Dracomarino with a pluck and an ultimate very early on in that fight. Big Eagles rally from Creed onto Fusify, but the silence comes into play to slow down the aggression. Say that until Dheylo jumps straight in onto Panther, forcing him to leap away, and Nazer clean up kill on aisle mid, I should say, as Fusify finally goes down, but it looks like Sibi's way not too happy about this. Nazer's one hit from death, and that will be the icing on the cake as Burrito pick up a kill, 1 for 1, mid for support. Draco's in trouble, as is Sibi.
And Sibi's going to actually still find a way to tackle everything off, but Creed cleaning him up all too easy. Warchi, same story with the Skadi. And now it's going to be Kespainify trying to just gas pedal Creed down.
This is a Chronos, and Chronos late game, only level 18 as it stands, but still going to be swinging away. Dheylo can take on an army right now. He's so tanky and pushing Kespainify back towards his Phoenix, and the Aegis comes out too. Papis end up winning the engagement because they get a tier 2 tower in the mid lane on top of the extra kills.
That's just a free relic every single time. If Dheylo is able to commit with only 1 or 2 members available from Burrito, there's pretty much no stopping him from landing off all of that CC and damage.
And this is just where the comp from Papis is starting to come together a little bit more. You mentioned the mobility. Well, I think it's actually the dive potential from this whole squad, because I think realistically, outside of Warchi, who can technically dive because of Calder, they can all dive a backline member at any given scenario. And when you put DeathPanter and Kespainify in the backline, Fusify is trying to be aggressive. I think he should probably play a little bit more passive.
Well, that's the interesting part, though, is that sure, MrNazer actually did end up dying and using both of his relics, but his ult was so aggressive, actually cutting straight through that T1 tower, that his team had the option to fall back if they needed to, but just the way that they were able to immediately siege all that they wanted to in the mid lane just really opens up a lot of avenues for this team.
If you're just tuning in, Burrito earlier today did defeat New Game Plus, so they're already on 1 win so far. Burrito need this win to pretty much guarantee themselves SPL in the fall split. Papis, meanwhile, got beat by Victoria's Secret earlier on, and that means that they're 1 loss away from going out of the SPL, unless circumstances of everybody losing to Burrito happens. But right now, Burrito still in the back foot here. Papis in control the Fire Giant Pit and the Portal Demon. Sibi the first one to turn up to try and contest.
Warchi just really trying to do everything that he can for his team, but it's going to be Sibi actually getting locked down inside of everybody from the Papis. DeathPanter already forced out of the fight. This is the perfect time for Papis to engage.
Yeah, Kespainify forced to rewind there because space and time from MrNazer did end up hitting there. Good look onto Sibi, and they're still focusing a lot of attention on Sibi on the front side. Fusify going to drop the ult defensively. DeathPanter with a Desert Fury of his own. Dheylo forced out of the fight. His ultimate now down. Dzoni around the corner being dealt with by Caldera. Sibi still stands strong. Nobody dead. instead. But Sibi needs to return to base. Remember, no teleportations this time round. And these solo laners are not level 20. It's the carries that are level 20 or starting to get there first.
Papis want this portal demon pretty badly. Dzoni able to hear them on it, but I'm not sure he's going to really be capable of stopping this siege from happening.
Warchi could be a problem here now for Burrito because Warchi still has his relics available. Most other people have relics down. DeathPanter has his up, so he's the only one that could really dance around here. Tricky task from both teams.
Dheylo has come back in, though, and he's full health now, but they are just completely shredding this portal demon.
Portal demon could go down here, and Stable Vortex will steal it away. MrNazer to the rescue. Dzoni in trouble, and he's forced out. Sibi chasing forward, but Papis are happy. Papis managed to get the portal demon, and so they'll walk away happy.
Absolutely love the disengage from Papis. So much discipline in that little bit of a play. Instead of choosing to take up the fight and maybe lose a member or two, they'd rather just opt back to base, buy a couple of items, and then come back in and look for the fire giant fight.
DeathPanter hung around here a little bit too long and forced to leap away from Dracomarino. There was a wraparound coming from Papis, and the wraparound actually found Sibi in an awkward spot, surprisingly enough. Sibi died there? I'm not sure what of, because he was so tanky earlier on. I guess he got surrounded and we just didn't catch it on cap.
Just a little bit too much pressure all around from the Papis. They've really been swarming every member from Burrito. As soon as the fight breaks out, they've actually been grouping up together and focusing out one member from Burrito.
The Spanish Swarm, that's what it is. The Spanish Swarm are trying to march on to the next game if they can. Dracomarino gets a good pluck on Panther, and that's going to get Beads in response. Nice timing from that. But Beads being down means Panther's got to be a little bit more careful. Got to eat the slip and slide coming out from Warchi, and Warchi going to space ahead. 3-man Eagles rally. Warchi gets one. Fusify is trying to silence everyone, but that's a double for Warchi. Kespainify will rewind back into the jungle to safety, but Papis get 2 in a row, and it was all down to iCreed and that fantastic Eagles rally.
Sibi just now spawning means that he might have a little bit of capabilities to try and prevent Papis from securing this fire giant, but Johnny's looking a little bit risky trying to face off into the Papis.
Still has his ult and will get up in time. So this will slow Papis down for a minute or two. Dzoni will just hang on that cloud until he can heal up as much as possible and then try and take him in a merry goose chase. But Papis aren't scared about that goose chase. They're just going to send Creed after that. Dheylo on zone duty against Sibi and Kespainify, but Fire Giant was reset there. This is where Papis are struggling. These Fire Giant causes where they're struggling. They could have potentially taken it. Instead, they're eating a lot of poke and buying a lot of time for Burrito.
That was a massive stun from Kespainify, but it doesn't matter. Sibi's still getting swarmed down again by the Papis. Even with the Thorns active, it does not matter. Papis still cleaning him up.
I mean, Dzoni should fall down here, but the Bracer came into play there by the sounds of it, just keeping Dzoni alive still. Kespainify comes in, looking for Dheylo now, and the Papis are too low and have to really contest, but Unstable Vortex over the wall from MrNazer removes Dzoni, and now the calamity of this game continues. Power play to Burrito as they have 3 members on full health. Oh, if I would have caught that, that could have been a different story. But why are they not doing fire here? They've got the carries. The carries are trying to fight. They're looking for Creed and Dracomarino, but MrNazer's back.
And it's going to be Kespainify backing as well, except to his own base unwillingly. Fusify in a whole lot of trouble now, trying to get away, dropping the Dharmic Pillars. Nowhere to go.
Good tail whip from Dracomarino too, and then trapped in a corner. And that should spell the Fire Giant going to the Papis now. Taco, these fights have gone on forever. Decision-making is where they've struggled, but it's both teams making the wrong decisions too that's allowing this game to keep going.
Decision-making has definitely spelled absolute disaster for both sides, but probably worse for Burrito. That was their chance for the power play onto Fire Giant. They already had both of their carries available, so they should have just been shredding that FG. A Chronos and an Anhur can very easily shred that Fire Giant. They probably would have even been able to secure it without MrNazer being able to ult to it in time.
Well, it makes the EU relegations a little bit spicier now. If Burrito do fall down to the Papis here, that will leave the Papis at 1 win, Burrito at 1 win, after both of them playing 2. The only team that still would potentially get the 2-0 intact for the time being could be Victoria's Secret if they take on New Game Plus and find the win there. That would pretty much put them in a great spot for going to the SPL, but that's still to come. We've still got to get over this game first, and with how it's going, yeah, Papis are in the power play, doesn't mean they've got it in the bag just yet, especially with all these towers. Well, one tower still standing.
It can still be pretty back and forth. It's really just going to come down to how strong is Burrito's peel and counter engage, because you have the Papis. They have so much gas pedal potential. It's just the 2 sprints. These 2 sprints plus the Janus speed buff has just been absolutely insane.
And when you think about Osiris and Sun Wukong, both relying on slows, you know? The Master's Will of Sun Wukong is one of his biggest impacts in terms of team fights of slowing people down. And Osiris does it all day. Sprint nullifies both of those for the duration. So now, Phoenix under attack, tier 2 tower already falls, and Papis just looking to poke down Burrito if they can, first of all. If MrNazer finds one unstable Vortex attacker, it could spell trouble.
Fusify already expending the silence, and you can tell that they want to play aggressive now. DeathPanter in so much trouble. Dheylo looking for the commit. He's in the Aegis. It doesn't matter. He dies in his own fountain.
The tanks dive the back line and take out one carry. Sibi, though, will take out Warchi. That's important for Burrito fans out there. Phoenix falls on the right-hand side. Sibi getting low, lurking in the waters, goes pop, but the Thorns will not keep him standing in the end. MrNazer falls back, and as you can see, it's a 2-for-1 as it stands. Johnny flipped into terrible trouble up against MrNazer, but I don't think MrNazer really wanted him that close, thank you very much. Papis fall back, 2-for-1.
The unstable Vortex from MrNazer there was just a little bit too soon, so Johnny was technically still in the air, and because of that, it doesn't connect. Now, when you're in that sort of situation as Janus, your only option really is to run. He's pretty much the last member for hard damage dealt.
And the funny thing about that fight is I think Papis needed to do what they did there. Yes, they lose Warchi, but with Creed and Dheylo going so deep for Panther, it created a problem for Burrito because they were like, do we peel for DeathPanter or do we defend the Phoenix? I think Sibi and Johnny made the right call to head towards Warchi and take out the actual killer of the Phoenixes.
It is important to note, though, that Kespainify still has both of his relics available, and considering in that last fight that the Papis had to expend a lot just to find even that one Phoenix and the kill, it could potentially be really troublesome trying to lock down this Chronos now.
You can see the structure damage on the left-hand side. Just to point out, Burrito do have a tower, but that was all minion damage quite clearly that got that tier 1 tower in the mid lane. Other than that, no one's even basicked it. Like, nobody.
That's
crazy.
Pretty intense, actually, that minions were able to be the ones that siege down that mid lane tower.
Well, that's a funny thing that you can do if you're watching this back as a Papis player now, or as at least for MrNazer's knowledge. He lost his mid lane tower with nobody actually hitting it. That's a lot of minions that got to whack on his tower for a long time for that to happen. Something you need to keep an eye on going forward because you can't give up free towers to minions.
I believe that occurred during those fire giant dances, though, when everybody's trying to just focus more on positioning around FG as opposed to necessarily keeping the wave pushed. Typically, you just keep the solo lane pushed up in that kind of circumstance.
Well, right-hand Phoenix has gone down. Now space inside from Nazer. Looking at Kespainify. He's already dead. Found the shot from the back lines, and that set him up nicely. Nice off from Fusify to slow down the aggression, but bad news is Johnny's already fallen. 2 members of Burrito dead, and with Sibi on the front line on his own, the Thorns are working. Desert Fury from Panther did some work, but not enough to bring anyone down. Warchi will get Sibi, and Panther goes all the way in for Warchi, but I don't think he's going to find the kill as he's juggled in the air. The CC's too much, and Nazer will get another kill, his 7th of the game, as Warchi will go to 13. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I believe Papis are about to beat Burrito.
Not even worried about sieging that Phoenix. There's absolutely no need to. They've got a fire wave of creeps coming in and a complete deicide onto Burrito. That's going to be the Papis making things even.
Shortest game of the day so far, I guess, at 36 minutes, but it was a back-and-forth encounter that was all mid to late game focused.
That was incredible from Papis, I would say, especially since it seemed like they were a little bit more on the back foot. But Warchi just really came through way more clutch. That's kind of what you were expecting to see from Ram when he got the lead.
Yeah.
This time he got the lead on Skadi, and he did not let it go.
But is that 3 for 3 for Skadi today so far? I can't remember who played it game 1, but was it Skadi that won game 1 as well?
Permafrost is hands down one of the best abilities in the game, no doubt.
But Caldir isn't immune during the ultimate anymore.
That didn't change anything.
That was a nerf, right?
Well,
Warchi is putting on a pretty good show today so far. His game of Rama, he got caught on the back lines a lot, but this game is a little bit better for him, able to position at the back, and especially with the front line that protected him so well here. Just able to free fire damage consistently throughout the whole fight.
I just love the way that he positioned himself off of his permafrost, always ensuring that he kept it in order to drop it in case any of the frontliners tried to hard engage onto him.
And look at his reposition in the fight too. When he realizes that people are coming towards him, instead of firing autos, he's just walking away on purpose to reposition a little bit quicker. That comes into play quite a lot.
I think that was overall really well played by Warchi, and again, just heavy pen build onto Skadi means a lot of bad things for the enemy team.
So as it stands, New Game Plus, after 3 games, they're the only team that haven't won a game yet. The other 3 teams in Relegations have done so. Let's have a look at the standings and you'll see exactly what I mean here, especially after those last 2 teams of the Papis and Burrito both playing 2. Victoria's Secret have the chance to take a lead here.
This is actually really important for Victoria's Secret because if they're able to find a victory in their next game, I think that basically guarantees them pretty much, considering everybody else will be split or at 0.
Looking pretty damn good for them. We'll see how they will do. But if you've not heard about the caster yet, well, it was a competition that we filmed at the start of this year, but we'll be releasing very soon. Here's a look at one of the contestants. You've seen him before, but I'm sure you'll see him again. Here's Rabies.
And I'm Paul Rabies Santoro. I'm from Long Island, New York, and I'm here on the caster. I have always done sales in the past while doing gaming on the side. I've worked for Bose Corporation for 3 years as a sales consultant. Then I worked for Chevrolet as a sales consultant. In between then, I was doing WCG's The Ultimate Gamer, the Championship Gaming Series on DirecTV, Friday Night Fights for Activision Blizzard and Call of Duty, and trying to just get to every tournament I possibly can, honestly. I started competitively gaming when I was my first major tournament, Evolution East 2006. I was 15 years old. I took 3rd place and never looked back, really.